This is the Strong is a Mindset podcast, episode number 145. If you justify mindless eating, let's talk about why and what you can do about it. This is the Strong is a Mindset podcast, where you'll learn how to build both a strong body and a strong mind by eating, moving, and thinking. I'm your host, physician, personal trainer, certified health coach, and certified life coach, Carrie Holland. Hey, how are you? What's new? What's good? So, what's good here? We are diving into a common phenomenon that I run into frequently when I'm working with clients who are trying to stop overeating. So often when I'm working with a client, we'll decide during a session on a habit that she's going to address. And one that comes up commonly is mindless snacking on highly processed foods. So things like Cheetos or M&Ms. Those are two that are top of mind because I just had conversations with two different clients about those foods this week. And so she'll make a plan and say she's going to practice not eating them whenever she feels like it because she knows it's not helpful. And then during our next session, I just ask about it. So my client who decided she was going to practice paying attention to the Cheetos, I just asked her, how did it go? And that week for her, it did not go well. She has a big bag of Cheetos in her pantry, and she found herself with her hand in that bag several times through the week in between our sessions. And this is not uncommon. I always remind clients that when they start the work of unraveling their habits, it's not a straight shot right out of the box. Inevitably, there are hiccups, and it's not always super easy just to pay attention and walk away from the Cheetos. So in this case, I just asked my client, all right, what's going on? She had described one day in particular that she came home from a really tough day at work, and she went to the pantry and grabbed the bag and got a handful of Cheetos and ate them. And then she described another day over the weekend at a time that she wasn't stressed from work. And again, she found herself in the pantry, hand in bag. So I just asked her, why do you think you ate the Cheetos? And her answer was, I just wanted it. And that was the end of it. And maybe you can relate. Maybe for you, it's chocolate chips or Reese's peanut butter cups. And maybe it's that when you find yourself in front of a certain food, you find that you just want it, so you have it. But here's what I want to point out. When you stop at I just wanted it, that is a surface level response. And it sounds reasonable at first. You might think to yourself, well, Cheetos are salty, they're crunchy, they leave orange powder on your finger that you can lick off when you're all done. I just want them. So you've reasoned with yourself that it sounds good, it tastes good, so on with it. And if you stop there, that's the end of it. And you're keeping yourself from learning more about you and your habits. So if you've ever told yourself something like, I just wanted it, or I deserve this, which is another one that comes up all the time, it may seem like a rational argument in the moment. Wanting something or feeling like you earned a treat, it is not inherently wrong, right? In fact, society reinforces it. Everywhere you turn, every ad you see will tell you that food is a reward for hard work. Food is a way to soothe your discomfort. Food is your escape. But here's the problem. While thinking this way seems harmless at first go, these justifications act as a mental shortcut that keeps you from digging deeper to actually understand your food choices. So when you declare, I just wanted it, you bypass the opportunity to understand the emotional, physical, and situational triggers that led you to that decision in the first place. You're not asking yourself why you wanted the food. So you're never going to know if you ate the chocolate because you were actually physically hungry, or it was because you were feeling stressed or tired or filling a void that food has helped you fill in the past. When you settle for the surface level response, you miss out on the opportunity to learn more about your relationship with food, your patterns, your thought processes, and your habits. So instead of justifying your behavior with a quick excuse, we have got to dig deeper and look for what else is going on. And that is where we're going today. We're going to break down some of the most common responses that come up for mindless eating. And then we're going to talk about how you can address those responses in a way that not only increases your self-awareness, but also helps you identify what's going on behind your eating habits so you can feel more in control. Because really, at the heart of all of this, that's what this is about. I want you to feel in control because you are. All right? So let's go. So let's talk through some of the most common surface level responses that you might use to justify your food decisions. And as I do this, I'm just encouraging you to pay attention and think if you've ever thought any of these to yourself. And again, the idea is not to beat yourself up here, but rather just to become aware of some of the things that you might be telling yourself that are making it easy for you to overeat or mindlessly eat foods that you didn't intend to eat in the first place. And I'm going to start with what we were just talking about, which is I just wanted it. So this one is classic. It comes up often. It is such a doozy, and I want to pull it apart. So the response is simple. It's direct, and it does not invite any deeper questioning whatsoever. And this response is so common, especially in situations where emotions are high or when the act of eating itself has become automatic. And the truth is, food can be a quick, accessible solution to a number of emotional needs. When you're stressed, anxious, overwhelmed, eating provides you with a temporary sense of relief. And this is why it's so easy to brush it off as simply wanting something. When you're reaching for the Oreos after a long day, it's often so fast, it feels like a momentary desire, like something natural or something justified and something completely automatic. It feels like it's not that deep, but I would argue that there's more to it than that. So I had a client who really struggled with this. She would come home from work, super long days, and automatically reach for salty snacks like chips. And you might do the same. After a hard day, you might reflexively reach for a treat because your brain associates that snack with comfort, relief, or even a distraction from whatever your workday brought to you. And so the response, I just wanted it, is your brain's way of simplifying your behaviors without having to dive into the emotional components that are often complex or just straight up uncomfortable to confront in the moment. It's a quick, surface level answer that prevents any deeper self-reflection. It totally shuts down awareness, and it shuts down any opportunity for a different outcome. And at the same time, if you've made your eating into a habit, the act of eating may just be part of your routine, and the reason for eating becomes secondary to the habit itself. So if you're used to having a bag of chips while watching TV every evening as a way to decompress after a stressful day, you've trained the habit. And when you go to question it, the simple response might be, I just wanted it. But what's important to note here is that this type of response can become a defense mechanism. It is easier to dismiss the deeper reason for eating the chips than it is to face it head on, especially if you're using food to shield yourself from feelings like sadness or stress. When you reduce your reason to just wanting it, you avoid looking for, and you also avoid managing the emotion that comes up and triggers the eating in the first place. That's why this kind of eating is so common in emotionally charged or automatic eating situations, because it allows you to sidestep the discomfort of actually examining your behaviors. You're not thinking, you're just eating. So saying, I just wanted it, doesn't tell you why you wanted it. What was it about that food or that moment that triggered the desire to eat? Were you actually physically hungry? Was it an emotional trigger like stress, sadness, anxiety, or boredom? Was it out of habit, where you automatically reach for something sweet or salty at a certain time of day? Or was it a reflex, a fast decision made in the heat of the moment without pausing to ask yourself any questions and without thinking of the consequences? When you stop at I just wanted it, you skip over the opportunity to find what's really at the root of the desire, and that's part of the problem. You're not getting to the root cause. And remember, getting to the root cause will help you find answers that result in real, long-lasting change. When you leave it at the surface, you stay disconnected from the emotions or the patterns that led to your decisions. And then you end up repeating those same habits without understanding why you keep reaching for food in the first place. And that is what we need to solve for. So if you find that your response is always, I just wanted it, and you can't seem to go any deeper than that, that is a sign to me that it's time to slow down and get curious. And no, you're not being self-critical when you do this. Instead, it's about taking a second to reflect and ask yourself some more specific questions. Questions like, why did I feel the urge to eat in that situation? What was I feeling in that moment? Was I really hungry, or was I trying to cope with something? And the only way you're going to find these answers is if you slow down long enough to give yourself time to think. So when you slow down and go beyond I just wanted it and go a little deeper, you give yourself the chance to uncover what else is going on. You give yourself the opportunity to see what the emotional drivers are behind your eating. So it could be emotions like boredom, sadness, entitlement, deprivation, and there are plenty of others. And then when you know what's driving you to say, I just wanted it, then you can practice making more mindful food decisions instead of just accepting, I wanted that, as the be-all, end-all with nothing more to say. And that's also an opportunity to practice sitting with and being with your emotions instead of eating them away. When you start to see that I just wanted that is more deeply connected with a feeling, then you can practice allowing that feeling instead of immediately reaching for food to distract yourself from it. And that is the real work right there. It's going beyond, I just wanted it, and asking yourself why enough times to get to the root cause, which is almost always a feeling. And then you practice sitting with and allowing that feeling instead of eating it. That right there, that is the real work in a nutshell. And that's what I'll help you do. Feel your feelings, whatever they are, instead of eating them. All right. So I know we spent a bit of time on that, but I really wanted to pull that apart because I have seen it come up so many times. And I wanted to give you a new way of looking at the justification of, I just wanted it. Now, let's talk about another surface level response that comes up often, and that is, I earned this. So how many times have you told yourself that you earned a cookie or a huge scoop of ice cream or a glass of wine after a rough day? So this is using food as a reward, and it often happens without you even realizing it. In these moments, food becomes a form of validation or even compensation. Maybe you worked really hard, or you stayed on plan all week, or maybe you handled a difficult conversation. And when all is said and done, you feel like you earned a reward. The idea is that you've put in the work, and now it's time to celebrate or treat yourself. It's as if the food is a token of appreciation for your hard work or a way to acknowledge your effort. But here's where it gets tricky. When you say, I deserve this, ask yourself, what exactly am I rewarding myself for? Are you rewarding yourself for getting something done or for getting through something? Or is that cookie a way to temporarily escape stress, boredom, sadness, or another emotion? Cakes and cookies and chips, they can offer immediate relief because they are a distraction. But that doesn't mean food has to be your go-to means of celebrating or rewarding yourself. So it might be worth asking the question, is food the only way I can celebrate my success? Is food the only way I can reward myself for this hard thing I did? Are there other ways to recognize and appreciate my effort? And I really love these questions because they force you to think about what else is possible. And when you answer those questions, you may find that food becomes less of a default and you start to think of other ways to celebrate yourself. So what if instead of turning to food, you treated yourself in some other way? Like a 10-minute nap or a walk outside or a good book or some other activity that makes you feel good. And all you're doing is looking for alternatives to create a healthy way of rewarding yourself that does not tie your self-worth or success to food. So this is a big shift. Making this shift means questioning the idea that you earn food, and it can help you break free from the cycle of food as reward and start finding more sustainable methods of celebrating your wins. Because here is the other thing I want to point out. When you use food as a reward system, you set it up that you only get it when you've been good. You make food very transactional and create all kinds of conditions under which it's okay for you to have the food. You've got to earn it. But that's not the kind of relationship that I want you to have with food, okay? Food is not something you earn. Food is something you eat. And when you create all kinds of rules or systems around it, it becomes very complicated, it becomes transactional, and it's a setup for a negative relationship with both yourself and with food. All right. So another surface level response that comes up often is, it's just one, it's no big deal. So it might be that you're at a restaurant and everyone else is eating from the bread basket and you decide to have at it, even though before you got there, you told yourself you were going to skip the bread basket because you want dessert instead. But then you see everyone else eating the bread and it's warm and the butter is melting on everyone else's piece. And you decide to yourself, what the heck? It's just one piece of bread. It's no big deal. And while this response sounds factual in the moment, and it's an easy one to land on, what you're really doing is minimizing your actions. That one little thing may seem harmless, and in isolation, it may seem like no big deal. But it kind of is a big deal because what it represents is you not following through. And that, in my opinion, is a bigger deal than the bread itself. And the other problem happens when this mindset becomes a regular part of your eating habits. If you regularly convince yourself or negotiate that it's okay to indulge because it's just one, you'll find that all of the small, seemingly insignificant decisions start to pile up over time. A handful of chips here, a scoop of ice cream there. It really doesn't feel like much, and it's not. But over days, weeks, months, all of those just one instances add up to you overeating and making that justification a consistent habit. It's easy to justify just one by telling yourself it's no big deal and dismissing the cumulative impact of all the little things. But here's the thing. When you continually allow yourself to brush off your food choices, you're avoiding the deeper reasons behind those food choices. And over time, all these one-offs become part of a larger pattern. And those small decisions ultimately have a big impact on your long-term goals, whether that's weight loss, getting healthy, or even just feeling more in control of your eating habits. So instead of letting all the just one decisions slide by unnoticed, ask yourself, why am I choosing this now? What is motivating me to eat this right now in this moment? Is this really hunger? Or is it a response to a trigger like stress, boredom, or habit? And the idea here is that taking a pause, asking questions, and getting curious about why you're making a choice can reveal patterns to you that you might not be aware of. And for a lot of my clients, they discover a pattern of late afternoon snacking. It is that time of day when they hit a slump, so they reach for food to manage it when really what they're dealing with is boredom, fatigue, or stress. But then once we discover that habit, we can work on it. We can address that habit and replace it with something else, like taking a short walk or taking some deep breaths or getting a glass of water or just taking a pause to check in with yourself. And the whole point is that when you start to recognize the deeper reason behind it's your just one little thing decision, you can adjust your approach and avoid letting small, repeated, habitual indulgences get in the way of your success. All right. So next, another justification that commonly comes up is the thought, everyone else is eating this. I don't want to feel left out. So this one is super common in social situations, parties, meals out, holidays. There are plenty of occasions where you might feel like you're missing out if you don't partake in all of the food and alcohol. You don't want to be the one who didn't indulge, and it's easy to feel pressured to partake in the food, even when you're not hungry. So you may feel that there's an unspoken expectation that everyone, including you, should be eating and overdoing it on the same foods. And when you're surrounded by other people who are indulging, you might have feelings about being the only one not eating what everyone else is eating. And that is when the justifications will start coming up. That's when you find yourself negotiating and thinking to yourself, I don't want to feel left out, or everyone else is having a huge piece of cake, so I should too. This is just what people do. So the thought of being the only one not eating might lead you to feel uncomfortable, or you might feel like you're missing out. And this response is normal, it's common, and it stems from our deep desire to fit in and belong. Because remember, as humans, we are wired to want to fit in and belong. But it also raises an important question. Is it really food that makes you feel included? Or is there a different way to feel connection and belonging without overeating? And there are a few different parts to overcoming this obstacle. So one is something I talk about often on this podcast, and that is other people's opinions. You may be uncertain about not eating what everyone else is eating because you're concerned about what other people will think of you. But remember, whose opinion of you matters most? Yours. Your opinion of yourself matters most. And if your choice to skip out on the cake makes someone else uncomfortable or causes them to have a negative opinion about you, that is their problem to manage, not yours. And then 2, remember that most times the people you're with, they really don't care about what you're eating. We've talked about this recently. Most people are so worried about themselves and what they're doing that they are not really concerning themselves with what you're eating. So this should give you peace that people really do not care what you do. So do what works for you. And then 3, instead of using food as your default way of connecting with people, try shifting your focus. Instead of making an event be all about the food, consider the conversation, the people you're with, and your overall experience, not just the food. Okay? So when you recognize that your worth and your inclusion and your belonging are not at all tied to the food that you put on your plate, you will remove the pressure off yourself to overeat in social settings. You'll find a different meaning in going out and being with people because it's not all about the food. You can be seen, heard, valued, connected, and included, all without overindulging on food, even if everyone else is housing a bowl of chips and dip, okay? All right, so another justification that comes up frequently is, it's my favorite. So this often comes up when a food you absolutely love is in front of you. So for one of my clients, it's ice cream. For another, it's M&Ms. For another, it's a certain type of butterscotch cookie. And when that food is in front of you, it feels like it's impossible to say no. And in the moment, the food and the urge to have it feels overwhelming, and the idea of saying no can feel like you're denying yourself something essential. And it's then that it's my favorite becomes an automatic justification. And the fact that it's a food you really love makes it okay to indulge, even if you're not at all hungry or even if you didn't plan for it. But here's the thing. Just because something is your favorite does not mean all bets are off and you have to negotiate with yourself every time to have it. Okay? So instead of giving in to the urge, imagine what would happen if you dug a little deeper and asked, why does this food have so much control over me? Ooh, I really like that question. And I think answering it honestly can be super helpful. Is it the taste? Is it the sense of comfort and pleasure that the food provides in the moment? Is it the nostalgia? Does eating a certain cookie remind you of weekends at your grandma's house? Is it tied to a family tradition that makes the food more emotionally significant for you? What is it? And I think it's important to ask and answer those questions, because understanding the reasons for why your favorite food has such a hold over you can offer loads of insight into your eating patterns. If you realize that it's not just the taste, but the emotional connection that's driving you to indulge, you can start to address those emotions in a different way. If you're craving nostalgia or comfort, there are other ways to take care of yourself that don't require turning to food. And more importantly, understanding why you feel compelled to eat something just because it's your favorite gives you power to manage your urges and cravings. So instead of feeling powerless in front of your favorite food, you can decide whether eating it is truly about satisfying a craving or if it's more about your emotions. And when you can make that distinction and you have that awareness, you can make more intentional choices. You might think ahead and decide to have a small piece of chocolate cake instead of going overboard just because it's your favorite. Or you might savor the fresh baked bread more on a special occasion when you feel like it truly adds value to your experience instead of simply downing it because it's your favorite. And the difference is paying attention and being purposeful in your decisions instead of just declaring, oh my gosh, bread straight from the oven, that is my favorite, and then going off the chain and eating half the loaf. The approach is different. There's thought behind it. There's intention. There's a pause. And ultimately, the goal is not to deny yourself foods you love, but instead to regain control over how, when, and why you choose to indulge. It's about control. All right, let's talk about one other justification that comes up that is also service level, and it's similar to I just wanted it, but a little different. And that is, I didn't plan for this, but I was craving it. So this comes up commonly when cravings catch you off guard, when food is readily available and you didn't anticipate the situation. So it could be that you're at a friend's house and she got cupcakes from your favorite bakery down the street. Or you could be walking by a pastry shop and smell the chocolate chip cookies. Or it may be as simple as you coming face to face with your favorite chips in the pantry. So in these situations, your immediate craving may take over and you might feel a tremendous urge to eat whatever it is in front of you. So when you say, I didn't plan for this, but I was craving it, you acknowledge that the choice to eat it wasn't pre-planned, but instead, it's a reactive response driven by an intense desire or even an impulse right there in the moment. Your craving came out of nowhere and it may feel urgent, like it needs to be answered and satisfied immediately, or you'll spontaneously combust if you don't have the cookies. But when you have this mindset, it will lead you to overeat, especially when you don't pause to think about the long-term impact of answering to your urges. When you act on your craving, you're prioritizing immediate satisfaction over your long-term goals and values. And in the moment, it's easy to justify that one bite or just this one time or just this once because you're craving it. But again, this type of impulsive eating can create a pattern where you ignore the bigger picture. And the cumulative effect of multiple spontaneous cravings can derail your overall eating habits and leave you feeling frustrated and powerless against certain foods. And again, my goal is to put you back in charge. So what do? Okay, so when you notice that you're having a craving, slow down and ask yourself, why? Why am I craving this right now? And then answer the question. Is it because you're actually physically hungry? Or are you bored, stressed, sad, happy? And then don't stop there. Keep going and ask yourself, how will I feel after I eat this? Or what happens if I don't respond to this craving? And again, answer the question. And what I find is that often we just stop at the craving. We say, well, I'm craving chocolate. So if I'm in front of chocolate, of course I should have some. But what if you question that? What if you asked why and thought about what you would feel after you ate the chocolate? Then what? And the whole idea is to reflect on how your spontaneous choice to eat based on your cravings aligns with your goal, and then make a more mindful decision. And if the craving is super powerful, you've got options. Is there a healthier, more balanced way to satisfy it? Whether that's a smaller portion, a different snack if you're truly hungry, or even practicing sitting with the craving for a few minutes before deciding that it's truly what your body needs. Because all of these responses are available to you if you slow down long enough to consider them. And here's what I want you to know. You are still in control of your brain, even when you have cravings, okay? I've had too many clients tell me, well, I had a craving for chocolate, so I just had the chocolate. Now that's the end of it, as if they had no say in the craving at all. But I want to empower you to think about it differently because you are still in control no matter what. Even if you have a craving for chocolate or a cookie or salty chips or whatever it is, you are still in charge, okay? The craving is not. And the more you unravel your craving and get to the bottom of it by asking, why am I craving this and how will I feel after this? The more you'll understand yourself and the more you can practice control over your decisions, whether that's to eat whatever it is you're craving or not. All right. So we just talked through a number of surface level justifications that come up all the time for why you overeat, mindlessly snack, or don't follow through on your plan. So to recap, those responses are, I just wanted it. I deserve it, or I earned it. It's just one. It's no big deal. Everyone else is doing it. It's my favorite, or I was craving it. And to be fair, there are many, many others, but I wanted to pull up some of the most common justifications I've worked through with my clients and share how you can approach them differently. And what I want to point out and highlight here is that at the core of unraveling and addressing any and all of these surface level responses is awareness. It always comes back to awareness, right? And when I say awareness, that means getting curious, asking questions, and answering them honestly. The reason we say things like, I just wanted it, or that's my favorite, I couldn't say no, is because these responses are quick and easy ways to justify our actions without having to confront the deeper emotions or patterns that drive those choices. Really, those responses are mental shortcuts that distract you from having to find uncomfortable truths about yourself, like eating to self-soothe, or eating to escape boredom, or eating to escape real life, even if for just a minute. And so here's the thing. Awareness is where the real change happens. Awareness is when you slow down the moment and ask yourself why you're making the choice you're making, instead of taking everyone else is doing it, so I should too, as fact. Awareness means you ask and answer, are you truly hungry? Or is it an emotion, a habit, or a reaction to a craving that you haven't fully explored? Awareness means coming off autopilot instead of defaulting to what you always do. And that is not easy. It takes practice, persistence, trying, and feeling, and a willingness to see things that you may not love about yourself. But that is where all of the change is, in awareness. And I hope that I've pointed out to you many different ways to raise that awareness depending on the justification you're using. Okay, so now, aside from awareness, another piece to unwinding your justifications and moving past them is self-compassion. Unraveling your default surface-level responses is going to require patience, kindness, and maybe even forgiveness towards yourself. And that is not always easy, especially if you're used to pushing yourself harder. It's easy to get frustrated or even judgmental when you do this work and find that you're repeatedly justifying mindless eating or frequent indulgences. But remember, you can't beat yourself up into better. Remember that being hard on yourself really is not the path forward to growth. So instead, practicing self-kindness means that you approach change with a non-judgmental mindset. So you don't beat yourself up about the habits you have or the mistakes you make, because self-compassion really is your key to long-term success. And please also remember that self-compassion does not mean that you have to be overly mushy squishy or call yourself love. And it certainly doesn't make you soft, okay? I had a really hard time, and admittedly still do sometimes, but I had a really hard time with self-compassion because I thought I was too hardened for it. But that is not the case for me. It's not the case for you, and anyone can learn this, okay? So understand that making mistakes and discovering unpleasant truths about yourself, that is part of this process. And when you do this from a place of self-kindness instead of self-judgment, you will move forward with less shame, more understanding, and improved consistency. And last, the last thing you'll find when you start unraveling your justifications is a sense of empowerment. So think about it. When you take the time to ask yourself the harder, deeper questions, things like, what am I really rewarding myself for? Why does this food seem to have so much power over me? You are opening yourself up to a deeper understanding of yourself. And when you answer those questions, you not only find answers, but you also learn more about yourself. And when you learn more about yourself, you'll feel empowered to make different decisions. Decisions that are based on what actually moves you forward instead of doing what just feels good in the moment. So this is a shift from reacting to reflecting, and it will help you move away from old habits and patterns that are not helping you. And remember, it's not about depriving yourself or saying no to everything you love. Instead, it's about making intentional choices that align with your health, fitness, and long-term goals. So when you shift your mindset from autopilot to self-awareness, you'll find that you've got more control over your eating habits. You will feel more connected to yourself instead of just going through the motions. And you'll have more freedom to make decisions that support both your health and well-being. And that is empowering. All right? And if you want help with this, let's go. When you coach with me, we'll find your justifications, then we'll unravel them. And in that process, you will be empowered to come off autopilot and take control of your habits. Check out my website, send me a message at www.carriehollandmd.com/contact. And let's talk about how changing your thinking and changing your habits will change your life. All right? Thank you again for hanging out with me, and I'll catch you again next week. Hey, if you want to build muscle but don't know where to start, I've got you covered. Head over to carriehollandmd.com/buildstrength and download my free guide to help you maximize your strength training. Inside, you'll find the essential exercises for building muscle, plus simple 1, 2, and 3-day workout plans that you can follow with just dumbbells and a bench. You'll also find strength training tips to help you train smarter and see real results. My goal is to help you get strong, and this strength training guide will help you do it. Go to carriehollandmd.com/buildstrength and check it out. Thank you for listening to the Strong is a Mindset podcast. If you want to learn more about how to build both a strong mind and a strong body by eating, moving, and most importantly, thinking, check out carriehollandmd.com.